And they're basically looking at a number of questions of how students are engaging with the activities and programs that colleges and universities are offering for their personal development as well as their learning. I believe it's good that they're taking part in that mix of the 600 or so colleges that are participating in the survey. It's not just for reasons of, as they say, but also because we can learn from it if we use these data, if we look at them more carefully and not just participating to be part of the statistics. But I think two particularly good reasons why we should consider to be part of this, continue to be part of this. One is those of us not being in the classroom for 4 semesters, 14 semesters, 40 semesters perhaps.
More.
More?
I've been here 32 years.
Okay, once, twice. Look, those of us, we automatically, we get to know the students, right? But at the same time, there's a level and there's a certain environment that we also forget within which we operate. You're standing in front of the class or somewhere in the middle usually. They're coming into your office hours. There's a certain personal and anecdotal flavor, if you want to, that kind of information, that kind of interaction that you have with the students, even if this has been going on for many semesters. And so I believe there's in that regard, there's a somewhat lower level of reliability to the impressions or the kind of knowledge that we take from that sort of interaction. And so it's good that we have these, well, college-wide as well as in comparison with hundreds of other colleges, data in terms of how this applies to the students and the things that we're offering for them in programs. And secondly, the questions that the NSSE is asking from students are directly linked to known best practices. And I think that makes it particularly valuable for us to look at these questions and look at the results that have come out of these questionnaires. They tell us about the behaviors of the students and the interact institutions that are directly related to best outcomes. And so I'm very happy that at the end of the semester, as you can hear, 2 of our faculty members have found it possible to take a closer look at the data for your college and perhaps also comparatively speaking, and have that presentation prepared for us this afternoon. I'm also thanking the Office of Institutional Research and Assessment under Dr. Mohammedi's directorship for always being there really to provide data to the departments and programs upon request. Not immediately, not the same afternoon necessarily, but if you ask in advance, you'll get them. And so I'm glad that we have some of you here this afternoon. I'm thinking perhaps there's an opportunity early next semester to repeat this and see if we can address some more and some other constituents at the college as well. All right, so without further ado, thank you very much.
Thank you, Holger. So we're gonna kind of alternate. So I'll start, then Cheryl will go, and we'll kind of sort of tag team.
Not every other word, though.
Hi.
Hi.
Holger started us off by kind of introducing the National Survey of Student Engagement, and so I want to kind of reiterate a couple of things that he said. The National Survey of Student Engagement is a survey that's now something that is 2 decades old, that is really run out of an institute at the Indiana University Bloomington, and well over 1,000 schools have participated now. What we do typically with the NSSE is what it's called, like the Loch Ness Monster. Typically what they'll do is they survey freshmen and they survey seniors. So we look at students at the beginning of their education and students at the end of their education. And they ask a set of questions about students' behaviors over the last year, the kinds of activities that students have been engaged in over the last year. And so what we get from the national survey is an indirect assessment of student experiences. So we're not actually out there like looking at what students have done, but it's a student's report of their behaviors and activities. What happens when you agree to participate in the National Survey of Student Engagement is basically NSSE, Indiana University, handles the whole process. You give them your student records. They arrange to sample your students. They reach out and contact your students. They on multiple occasions. The students complete the survey either online or in print. And in Indiana, they put all that together, and then they send you the data file. And they also send you a set of reports. So you get a fair bit of material back from Indiana University when you participate. As part of that process, I feel like I'm yelling, yet I also think that maybe people can't even hear me, so I apologize. You can hear me? Okay, good. As part of that process, what you get to do when you participate is you get to select from other NSSE schools a set of relevant peers. So, and what you get then is, you get your scores. You get your scores in comparison to the overall, everybody who participated in that survey that year. And then you also get the overall scores for the schools that you've selected as peers. And so you get a nice kind of comparison set.
I've never taught sitting down, so I think I'm going to stand.
Okay.
Anyway, we had freshman data and senior data, but for a couple of reasons, we decided to focus on freshmen only at this point. We did we asked the question, did the average response change from 2005 to 2009? And the way we did that was to do a confidence interval, which tells you basically if there was a difference one way or the other between 2005 and 2009. The difference could go in either direction. It could increase or decrease over that time period. And the 95% there, for those of you who have forgotten your statistics maybe, the 95% there is a probability interval on the number line, so to speak. In other words, you have a 5% chance of being wrong or outside that because the total is 100. So what we did at 0.05, it's called alpha or significance level, we found that there were significant differences in the average responses in 22 of the 85 questions. So you can do the math on that, I guess, if you want to. And we also compared through histograms, which you'll see in a few minutes. We compared York 09 to CUNY 09 to those CUNY York 09 to the peer institutions, which will be listed in a few minutes, and also to York back from 2005. Within house from 2005 to 2009 within York. Okay. NSSE does what they call benchmark scores. And there are 5 areas which you can see here. They group related questions from the questionnaire that you have in hand, which was the actual questionnaire that was administered to the students in 2009. They fall into these 5 categories: level of academic challenge, active and collaborative learning, and we have more information coming on this, student-faculty interaction, enriching educational experiences, and supportive campus environment. Those are the 5 areas. That the questions that you have there are grouped into these 5 areas. Some of the questions, not all the questions are in these areas, by the way. These are the schools. The big picture, so to speak, in terms of the benchmark questions, York fell between CUNY, responses of CUNY over CUNY, which was Brooklyn College, Staten Island, Lehman, Hunter, Medgar Evers, and Queens. Those were the CUNY schools compared to York, and the peer institutions included 2 CUNY schools, City and Lehman, but also included these other universities and colleges listed there. So we were in between the two. We were between, generally speaking, on the benchmark question. We were between CUNY schools. We were as good as, so to speak, we were as good as or better than the CUNY schools listed, but we were equal to or less than the peer institutions on student responses. So I think that's good news for us to a large extent. The first benchmark level academic challenge. This is a summary of the dimensions of that particular benchmark. There are 5 benchmarks, and this is the first one. Students preparing for class. Again, the students are filling the questionnaire out, so this is their response in terms of how they prepared for class, a number of assigned books, papers, and so on, coursework, how the coursework focused on analysis, these areas of analysis, synthesis, making judgments, application of theories to problems. And this was an interesting one. Did they work harder than they thought they could? Did they put that extra effort out or not? And the last one under this benchmark is campus environment, emphasizing academics, emphasis on academic activity. And there is the picture. No significant differences on this one. No significant differences between York, CUNY, and the peer institutions. You can see the percentages at the top of the bars, 53.3, 53.2, and 54.0. No significant differences there. This one, on this one, the 2 stars indicate, as you can see at the bottom, a probability of less than 0.01 by chance. So it's less than 1% by chance, 2 stars on the comparison of York 09 with 05. And as you can see, put together concepts from different courses when completing assignments or during class discussions. We went from 05, we went from 2.38 score, average score, to 2.64, and that was significant as a 0.01 level probability. Again, the probability 0.01 is the probability that you would get that difference by chance alone. In other words, no real difference, so to speak. The next one, the same pattern, more or less, except this one was not as significant. The significance here is at the 0.05 level, 5% significance, which is 1 star indicated on that bar. Again, we're comparing York 09 to CUNY 09, York 09 to Peers 09, and York 09 to York 05. That last bar there is 4 years previous administration. Active and collaborative learning was the second benchmark. Elements of participation in class, including class presentations, group work, project work, tutoring other students, community-based projects, and discussion of class material outside of class. These are the dimensions for this second benchmark. And those are the results. York, ACL is active collaborative learning, of course, exceeds CUNY at the 0.05 level, and but the peers exceeded York at the 0.01 level on active and collaborative learning. Discussed ideas from readings in class or classes and others outside of class, other than faculty members. That's what that one means. Other than faculty members. There was a difference of at the 0.05 significance level between York 09 and CUNY 09, York was higher, as you can see, 2.82 average response versus 2.67 average response for CUNY on that scale, on the scale for that those questions, or that question. And the other significance was from York 05, increase from 2.74 to 2.82 was significant at the 0.05 significance level. Student and faculty interactions. You want to do?
Sure. I'll do a couple.
In?
Sure,
okay.
sure. So this is another one of the benchmarks of student-faculty interaction. How are students interacting with us, with the faculty? Are they discussing their grades, their assignments with faculty? Are they just kind of like taking their grade, taking their assignment, and going home? Are they talking with faculty or an advisor about their career plans? Are they meeting with faculty outside of class, coming to office hours, these kinds of things? Are they doing things beyond just the coursework with faculty? So we had the undergraduate research day not too long ago here. That's an example of that kind of thing that would happen other than coursework. Are they getting, and this interests me, are they getting prompt written or oral feedback from faculty on their work? So these are some of the questions that are in the survey that together are combined to get at this benchmark that's called student-faculty interaction. And when we look at York here, on York 09, on student-faculty interaction, what we have is a benchmark that compares us to the CUNY schools and that compares us also to our peer institutions. And we see that the mean score, the average, when they combine these individual questions into the benchmark, we get an average of 34.7 at York, which is higher than CUNY's. CUNY overall of 31.7, but that is not actually significantly different. So we don't see an asterisk there. What we see is we're not quite where our peers are, where our peer institutions are on student-faculty interaction, but we are in line with CUNY, the CUNY senior colleges. So then what we did was we took yeah, sure. I'm sorry? I did not participate at all in the selection of the peers, so I'm not sure exactly how they were selected. John, maybe you could add to...
The majority of the colleges were community colleges.
So we selected them. They were selected in some way based on similar kind of characteristics to York College. So here what we're doing is we had the benchmark overall, and then what we're doing is spotlighting a couple of questions, a couple of responses from that benchmark where we see differences, mean score differences. So this one here, talking with faculty or an advisor about career plans. Really, basically, York in 2009 is on par with CUNY, on par with our peer institutions. What we see as a difference here is that York has moved in a good direction with regard to advising freshmen since 05. So I think this is a nice move for us. Here's another one, discussing ideas from readings or class with faculty outside of class. And here we've moved from 05. We seem to be doing this more often than we were in 05. And here we exceed our CUNY sister institutions on this, in terms of being available outside of class and talking with students about the readings. Now here's another dimension, working with faculty on activities other than coursework. Another place where York has moved, where our mean score has changed from 2005. Again, the big picture, I think the big picture on this is we are in line with both the other senior colleges and with our peer institutions. Second, that we have moved since 2005. So I'll take this one too. Sure. So the fourth benchmark that NSSE provides for us is one entitled Enriching Educational Experiences. So participation in co-curricular activities. I'm suspecting that perhaps what we're hearing now is an enriching educational experience. Being engaged in work-related activities, community service, study abroad programs, those kinds of things. Having a senior capstone experience is considered an enriching educational experience. Talking with students from different backgrounds, religions, etc. and using electronic media to complete your assignments are all sort of questions that are captured in this particular benchmark. And so when we look at this, what we see is, again, the picture, which is consistent with the big picture, where York sits between the CUNY senior colleges, so we're on par with or better than the CUNY senior colleges, and not quite at our peer institutions on these enriching educational experience questions. This is really an interesting, for me anyways, this is a really interesting question. Use an electronic medium to discuss or complete an assignment. So that might be using Blackboard in a course, participating in a discussion board. It may be a variety of things. What we see here is in 05, we were actually very low on that. Our students were not engaged technologically in completing coursework. By 09, we've moved to be in line with the CUNY schools as a whole. And while we're not quite there with our peers, we've seen a significant jump from 05 to 09 on the use of electronic media in classwork. I guess before I talk about this, I think it's important to note that there are a set of questions that go into the benchmark. 8, 10 questions. It depends on the particular benchmark. What we've chosen only to do is to spotlight the ones where there has been significant change from 05 to 09, or where we see real differences between us and our peer institutions, or us and the CUNY schools. So on all the other questions in the benchmark, we're pretty much on par with our peer institutions. So we're just calling out the differences. On the other questions, we're pretty much on par. So here we see encouraging contact among students from different backgrounds. I don't think this would surprise, the responses here would surprise anybody when you think about York College. I mean, I guess the one surprise would be that we've changed from 05. That we're actually doing more since 05, it seems, to encourage this kind of contact with students from different backgrounds. We have a highly diverse campus where there's a lot of interaction with students from different sort of economic, social, racial, and ethnic backgrounds. And that's reflected here where we exceed both our sister institutions and our peer institutions. You want to take this one?
Sure. Support to students academically, non-academically, socially, and the quality of relationships with other students with faculty, and also students with administrative personnel. These are the elements of this benchmark. And here, overall, York exceeds CUNY at 0.05. If you recall, that's sort of the lowest level customarily used for the significance level, or alpha, is 0.05. So we are a little bit better than CUNY, but we're almost the same in terms of peers. No significant difference between York and the peers. This is students' perception of help coping with non-academic responsibilities. From 05, it's a triple star. 0.002 significance level, which is a very stringent, very high levels alpha. Difference of from 1.97 average score in 05 on this to 2.38 in 09, and also 0.05 on with CUNY 09. Okay. Support for thriving socially. We have improved the second level indicated here, 0.01, from 05 to 09, improvement on that, and 2 stars also with CUNY, comparing to CUNY. Relationships with other students, no significant differences there. But the reason for that, I think, is that no significant difference because relationships with other students was fairly high the scores are higher, 5 and change, 5 point something and change are fairly high scores. So if you're the homogeneity, this is a test for differences. So if you're uniformly low or uniformly high, you're not going to see any stars, and that's what we have here. They redo that for the statistics. NSSE does that. They repackage certain questions. They repackage them. Good question. That's a very good question. Yeah. 1 to 7. Yeah. Yeah. So 5 and change, 1 through 7, 5 and change is up there, as opposed to yeah. There were yeah. Of the 85 questions, there were only 22 that had any significant difference from 05 to 09. And I was and so you have to ask what I said a few minutes ago. You have to ask, was things at a very high level in 05 and nowhere to go, or very low level? And the answer is the latter of the two. On most of these items, aside from the 22 where there was an increase, the level didn't change much from a fairly low. There were a couple of exceptions to that, but most of the scores by the students stayed low. They were low in 05 on most of those questions. So I think that's an interesting result for us. Same thing here, relationship with faculty members, fairly high. I believe this was 1 to 7 as well. Fairly high with faculty members. You want to flip the next one? But not significant different. A little bit lower with administrators. Student perception administrators. My take on this as a long-time person here is a lot of our students don't have a lot of contact with administrators. So, and the phrasing of the question also, administrative personnel and offices. They may have had one bad experience with an office or something, and that may have skewed it one way or the other.
Actually, it's going down.
But we're, well, we can talk about this later. There are two things here. There's statistical significance, and then there's institutional importance, right? We approached it, what we're presenting are statistical statistical test of the results. But you're absolutely right. You can look at up or down. It may not be statistically significant, but up or down, we can look at trends, whether they're statistically significant or not. Look at trends.
But faculty are the people who give the grade.
That's right.
So they're good with faculty.
That's right. But we're not allowed to accept any gifts from students. They used to bring me food and flowers and no more. No more. Okay. Those were the benchmark areas, the 5 benchmark areas. We've gone over those now. We also looked at other changes from 05 to 09. You want to?
Yeah, sure. I mean, so we've got, another 6 or 8 different questions where we see some real difference here. I guess one of the things that I would like to kind of say before we look at these questions that are not connected with the benchmark scores is that I think this picture here that we get from the NSSE our freshman student responses to last spring's administration of the NSSE, and particularly the comparisons to CUNY, comparisons with our peers. 05 is sort of ourselves to think about where we've changed. I think this is a really different picture from some of the other kinds of pictures that get painted. Some of the other kinds of data that comes out of Agajan's office, or that is generated out of your office based on a required query from CUNY, and that comes back to us in another kind of assessment, another kind of set of measures called the performance management process. In that process, we are often seen as we're grouped with the senior colleges, and yet we see somehow on those questions, on everything that's measured there, we end up oftentimes not looking so good in relation to our peer institutions. They don't ask the same kinds of questions. They don't ask the students questions, actually, and they tend to be more sort of institutional, quantitative, looking at pass rates in courses. And another set of a whole set of kinds of data that don't actually they're not really indirect measures, but direct measures of performance. And so I think that these data are a useful, I don't know exactly a counterweight, but another kind of look at your college in relation to the other senior schools. So let's look at some of these other changes since '05. So did you have did your courses include diverse perspectives in discussion or in class assignments? Here we see York really is standing out on this question when freshmen respond. We're doing a better job on this, it seems, from '05 to '09, and we really are exceeding the response from freshmen at other CUNY schools and at our peer institutions. On asking students to engage diverse perspectives in courses, in their coursework. This is really a fascinating question. Using email to communicate with a teacher. In '05, it was abysmal in '05. I don't know how else to describe it. And in some ways, in comparison to our peer institutions, we really are still have a ways to go. But real growth from '05 to '09 in terms of the use of the electronic media, this particular one, email and communicating with an instructor.
Let me just sort of experience. Recently, we had an email from me that our students do not communicate with your email. They communicate with their own email. So that is a major problem. We know that. That reflects your. So in other words, every student has your email, no matter what. But majority of them are not using your email.
Right. Yeah, I know that. Yeah.
But the problem with their own emails is that they change frequently. Within the semester, I had the experience myself in a couple courses. They would give me an email address. Okay, that's their email address, not a York email. But then it would change a couple of times during the semester, and some of them would not update it, even though requested. So it's a problem. Yeah. Yeah.
This is what they report, this is what email situation. Is that what they want? That they use the email?
Yes, this is a response. This is these are basically these are mean scores, averages of student reports on
It's the one before, Michael. It's the one before.
Apologize.
Yeah, okay.
Using email.
Yeah.
How often they use email to communicate with an instructor. So, I mean, this is another one that is really striking, and anybody who's been here for 5+ years will say, yep, that makes a lot of sense to me. How much time are our students spending working for pay off campus? How many of them are working like full-time, part-time jobs? In '05, so that the top end of the scale is 30 or more hours per week, full-time gig, right? In '05, many of our students were working full-time. In '09, that number has changed dramatically. I'm kind of surprised, actually, York '09 students are responding that they're working for pay off campus at for fewer hours than the CUNY senior college average. And we are sort of in line with our peer institutions on that. And I think that many of us in the classroom would say, yeah, I think that's true, that students are working less. They're coming to me saying, I can't do the work because they're coming less frequently to say, I can't do the work because I've got a full-time job. I mean, they still are working a lot, but...
Part of the consistency of the data is that over the past 5 years, our younger students are growing fast.
Yes. Right, and this is captured, this is the freshman, yeah.
By their families. They don't work.
Well, they do work, they just work a lot less than they did 5 years ago, yeah.
There's another aspect too. OTB, and I don't mean off-track betting, off the books. There's another aspect, which, you know, some of them, I don't know, some of them may have been cautious about the number of hours that they're actually working, right? It's possible. It's possible.
So we should go out into the atrium and see if this is going on right now. High rates of attending campus events and activities. If you were here in 05, you wouldn't have, well, occasionally you would hear this sound, but not that often. You would not have seen students milling about during club hours. You would not have seen the tables, the couches, the chairs, all that kind of stuff. And I think that's part of the sort of environment of the campus that contributes to this change here, this mean score change from 05 to 09. There are actually things to do on campus, places to hang out on campus, and so events to be involved in. And so students are responding to that. And, you know, I mean, I'm quite encouraged that York 09 mean score is in line with the CUNY senior college mean score and our peer institutions. You want to take the rest of these?
Sure. Acquiring job or work-related skills, 05 to 09, significant increase, 2.42 average response score to 2.7 in 09. Also much higher at that significance level of 0.05 or 5% P with CUNY, but not significantly different from peer institutions on that item. Understanding people of other racial and ethnic backgrounds, York improved significantly from 05 to 09, and very different, very much better than CUNY. 2 stars on that one for the significance, statistical significance, and 1 star on the peers. So we're the highest, as you can see, we're the highest responders, highest average score on that item for any of these groups, including York 05. Solving complex real-world problems, tremendous improvement, I think, from York 05 to 09, 2 stars, and we're better than CUNY at the 0.05 alpha. We're better than CUNY. Developing personal code of values and ethics, 0.05 again from 05, York 05 to 09, and also better than CUNY.
Better Lynch need to learn from us.
There you go. This is an interesting one.
From our freshmen.
Not serious.
No.
Triple star from 05 to 09 on this one, contributing to the welfare of your community. You know, I have my own thoughts on this one. Perhaps the election of Obama as president and the volunteerism, push for volunteerism and so forth probably had a big effect on that one, especially for York. But as any, do you want to take this one? Or?
You can take the limitations.
As any study, as anybody who's ever done a study, there's certain limitations of this, and we're up front. Actually, we're not.
We're not up front.
We decided to leave this to the end, so we can hold the audience. No, that was a conscious decision. This is based on 163 freshmen responses in 05 and 190, a little better, response in 2009. That's 16% in '09. So 190, you can do the arithmetic there if you want to. Our response rate in '09 was between CUNY and peers. CUNY response, 13% for the same administration, '09, and 18% for the peer institutions. So we were between CUNY, the CUNY schools and the peers, not only on the average scores on the items, but also on the response rate.
But that doesn't really, sort of.
But it's a fairly.
That doesn't really explain
sample.
away the limitations involved with having a 16% response rate. It's simply saying that our response rate was, not unlike the response rate of the institutions, to which we were compared.
And
go ahead.
You want?
There's a lot of surveys. I know it's going to be community. That's something you've done well.
Well, statistically, this is valid and reliable. But the law of large numbers state that the more I would go from 20% to 25%, but when you get 19%, I think we should be very happy. Given the circumstances, this is spring, our students have been very busy. They got at least 3 state CUNY surveys. Faculty got at least 2 surveys. I know that. So they're very busy, and when they see surveys coming, they just no. So I think this is great.
But I think that may be great for the institution that we are and the population of students we serve, and but there are NSSE schools that get much higher response rates based on the way they administer the survey. And
absolutely,
yeah.
Yes. But you got to also remember that it's not one size fits all. I know of an institution who actually forced the faculty in the classroom to administer to each student. That is one sort of sampling that they did, which is totally flawed. Ours is real random sampling. We never forced anybody. We never forced the students. Some of the faculty are here. We never told you to do anything. So it is a very natural process of natural sampling, like random sampling. So we are very glad that this is done well.
Okay.
You see it on the screen. One of probably the main reason we didn't look at seniors and compare freshmen with seniors and so on is a very extremely low response rate. 25 people in '05. 25 students out of how many were?
That's '09.
'09.
2009?
Yeah. How many were asked to fill out,
Do you want the number?
I'm curious.
Yeah, 1,000.
1,000. I thought so, but I wasn't sure.